New day, new ideas. Let's get going. Hey, everybody, Mntdewmania here. Welcome back to RedNeck Rants. Are you keeping up with me? I hope you are. You know we are on the letter T. That's right. Here in season 6 of RedNeck Rants. And this one I have been saving. Not really saving, but it got tucked away, as ideas sometimes do. When I was first starting out with the very first inkling of an idea of Redneck Rants, it wasn't even Redneck Rants. It was just an idea about wanting to just talk about stuff, rant about stuff, discuss things that irritate me or things I didn't understand. And I was playing around with the idea with my friend Connor Cavan, who's we've been friends for a long time. And if you got a Minecraft question or mod question, he's one of the first people I go to. Just very knowledgeable about Minecraft gaming, things that can go wrong, and just a a good friend. And he threw the idea at me. What if I picked phrases, just weird, everyday phrases that we use, and kind of discuss the origin of where they came from, how they became. Okay? And I didn't know if I liked that idea, but I did like the idea of like discussing a topic. And then I got into, we started talking about, well, I'm a redneck, I'm from the South. And it just kind of bloomed into redneck rants. So, but the idea kind of came from that discussion with Connor. And one of the ideas that he had is my letter today, after all these years of doing this. So, Connor Cavan, this episode is dedicated to you, and it's one of the first ideas you had. I don't know if you even remember it, but this is one of the first things that we talked about. T is for thinking outside the box. Ring a bell, Connor. Okay, if you don't know what that means, let me give you the definition of it. It is think creatively, unimpeded by orthodox or conventional constraints. Okay? Now, the term, I'm not real, there's only like one or two quotes I'm going to do, but the term originated here in the U.S. in the late 60s and the early 70s. Um, Now, a lot of people claim that they coined the phrase think outside the box. The earliest that, when I did research, the earliest that I could find was it was found in Aviation Week and Space Technology, July 1975 issue. That was the first time that, as far as any research into this, that's the first time it was used. And the quote was, "We must step back and see if the solutions to our problems lie outside the box." Okay? But the question was, when you hear that phrase, does it mean figuratively, as in like the rigid squareness symbolizing constraint, unimaginative? Companies want a cookie cutter, existence, from their employees. They don't want anybody to think outside the box. They've already thought, and they just want you to do. Okay? Actually, no. As it turns out, it actually refers to an actual box. And it was Sam Lloyd's Cyclopedia of 5,000 Puzzles, Tricks, and Conundrums. And it was, I think, it was printed and put out in 1914. Okay? Now, if I can find one, I'm going to put a picture here. Does the 9 dots puzzle ring a bell? You've probably done it if you were in elementary school. It's one of the first little tricks that somebody showed you. Here, can you work this puzzle? Okay? It's basically just 9 dots in a square. Okay? And that was in that puzzle book back in 1914. But in the 60s and 70s, management gurus, these teams were emerging. They encouraged people they were training to think outside the box. And they made the point with this puzzle. If you can, I mean, we've all probably done it. You put your pencil pen down and you have to go through all the dots without lifting your pen. You can't take it off the paper. That was the trick. Most people couldn't do it because they literally could not think outside that box. That's where it comes from. And I just wanted to kind of give you the background because it still applies to this day. Most people cannot think outside the box. And if I have to blame anybody, it's probably our school system, not so much the teachers, but just the rigid system in place. You know, come on, people. Kids graduating high school these days cannot read. Most of them can barely write their name. It's true. And I'm not talking about all kids. I'm not saying any kids are dumb. I'm just saying that we put people in pigeonholes and these spots, these cookie cutter spots, everybody has to know this, and I get really frustrated. I fought this probably my son's whole life, because he's autistic, and there are just some things that if he's interested in it, I can't even begin to tell you how much his mind explodes around it. His recall for something he is interested in is astounding. Okay? But when it comes to things that he is not interested in, he goes like most autistics do, they go to that place in their head where they're comfortable and safe. And with my son, it was always gaming. Because we used it, first of all, and primarily as a tool for his physical therapy. Because for the longest time, he couldn't even tie his shoes because of the muscle problems and the memory. But we used gaming as eye-hand coordination practice. And of course, being an autistic, and he loved it, he latched onto it. He plays a game in 2-3 days. He has it mapped out and memorized. He goes through games like most people go through, tissue. That's just the way it is. But I always was so frustrated and angry with the school system, not the teachers per se, but the school system, because it was so rigid. There was no thinking outside the box. They didn't want you to think outside the box. You had to meet certain criteria or you didn't pass, But it wasn't moved or shaped for my son. And I'm sure, even if you have children and they're not autistic, my daughter hated math. It's like a genetic thing with us. We just all suck at math. But I always felt, why did they keep forcing more and more math? Once you have the fundamentals down, adding, subtracting, division, multiplication, and maybe a little geometry thrown in, why did they keep shoving math down kids' throats, well, you have to have so many math credits when I mean, when it came to English, mythology, history, science, she loved it. She could, I mean, she couldn't get enough of science, biology. She loved it. Why can't the school systems think outside the box a little bit, you know, and kind of pattern and mold school curriculums around the kids? You know, I think a lot of awesome talents just get bulldozed over by rules, stipulations. This cookie cutter society we got going on, it's a lot better now than it used to be. With thinking outside the box, companies now want creative people. They want somebody that can think outside the box. I mean, that's the driving force behind a lot of companies now. But when I grew up, no, it was just this rigid. But you know, I'm just saying, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating to see so much potential in so many young kids just get bulldozed over because people can't think outside the box. You know, and it's a shame. It really is. So that's my rant for the day. There you go. This is a shout out to Connor Cavan. I have been holding on. It's on the original piece of paper that I wrote it on. 4 years ago when I first started Redneck Rants, and I've been waiting for a way to work it into something, and I needed a T, and I'm like, yeah, thinking outside the box. So shout out to Connor Cavan. Thank you very much, and thanks for being my friend all this time. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And let me know, have you ever had the opportunity to think outside the box and kind of share a story with us in the comments below? I'd appreciate it. And I appreciate you, as always, for being here. And I'll catch you guys next time. Winding down season 6, Redneck Rants. I'm so out of here. Bye, guys.